This is a video to share widely about the upcoming government shutdown. If you've already called about the exceptions clause in the Constitution, thank you. If you haven't, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is for you, and it's for you to share after you do your call to action that I'm going to outline at the very end. First, a little history. The exceptions clause is in Article 3 of the Constitution that governs the judiciary. The relevant section reads, in all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. This is talking about cases that will originate at the Supreme Court rather than be in a lower court and get appealed up. The next part is what matters. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, meaning appealing up, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. Back in the day, the Supreme Court was almost entirely controlled by Congress. Its docket, its jurisdiction, everything. Through a couple judiciary acts over the years, it has given the court more and more power over its own jurisdiction and docket. We are living in some of the consequences of those decisions. How is this relevant to the shutdown? Well, the Republicans have been running roughshod over the Democrats, but the main problem is that the president is encroaching on Congress's power of the purse. The federal district courts and the International Court of Trade and the courts of appeals have all found these actions unlawful. However, they are getting stayed and or appealed up to the Supreme Court, who is signaling quite strongly that they are going to side with Trump and his administration. What this means is Democrats in Congress can negotiate the greatest, most wonderful bipartisan deal ever with Republicans. But at the end of the day, the executive is going to do what it wants. And then when it gets sued, it's going to run to the Supreme Court, who's going to allow him to do what he wants. So any serious attempt the Democrats want to make at negotiating with Republicans in Congress regarding appropriations, which is their job, has to include limiting the Supreme Court's jurisdiction because they have clearly lost their minds. Congress needs to invoke the exceptions clause, and Democrats need to demand that a limitation to the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is part of any kind of bipartisan funding negotiation. Without it, anything they negotiate is just going to be undone. It is happening right now before our eyes. Who are you going to call about this? You're going to call Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. You're going to call House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. If you have a Democrat House rep or a Democrat senator, you need to call their offices as well. You need to say that you support their current stance of trying to get the ACA subsidies extended past December, but that you also expect them to try and limit the Supreme Court's jurisdiction in any negotiations, because anything they do can just be undone by the executive, as I have just said several times now. You can go to my Substack for the contextual information as well as a script in bullet points at the very end. This is only going to work if we the people demand this en masse. And even if they are unsuccessful, it shows us that they are willing to listen to we the people. And if they're unwilling to even entertain this, it tells us what we need to know about the 2026 midterms, okay? We'll get there when we get there. For now, get on the phone, send emails, light them up. Enjoy being a menace, and stay tuned.